The man the United States has called a, quote, global terrorist, Anwar al-Awlaki, has been killed in Yemen by a CIA drone strike, according to U.S. officials.
Before I begin, I want to say a few words about some important news. Earlier this morning, Anwar al-Awlaki, a leader of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, was killed in Yemen. The death
The missile has by now opened its eye and it's tracking. And with moving targets, it's a little bit more difficult. But the missile is adjusting it right there. Which is
future freedom is not good, Jacob, if the president thinks he can kill anybody he wants. Was this lawful or constitutional by any known accepted standard of law and the Constitution?
Absolutely not. It was nothing but state-sanctioned murder. That, you know, the government, the president has made some unsubstantiated assertions about what this man was doing. He's claiming that it was legal to assassinate this guy. But, Judge, as you well know, that's what a trial's all about.
What is this that stands before me? Figure in black, which points at me.
Drones have been called President Obama's weapon of choice. During his 4 years as commander-in-chief, U.S. military and CIA drone strikes have accelerated at an unprecedented pace. More than 400 CIA strikes against targets in Pakistan and Yemen, 8 times as many as under President Bush.
They have been very precise, precision strikes against al-Qaeda and their affiliates.
These strikes are legal, they are ethical, and they are wise.
The Constitution could not be clearer on this. The Fifth Amendment states in part that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It doesn't say no person except those deemed dangerous by the president. It doesn't say no person except those whom the president declares to be enemy combatants. It doesn't say no person except those against whom the president claims to have secret evidence. It simply states no person. This due process requirement is the linchpin of the entire Constitution. From it comes the presumption of innocence, that all persons are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. From it comes the government's duty of transparency and fairness, and it applies to all persons, even non-Americans. But that's not an issue here because Mr. Awlaki, as you may know, was born in New Mexico, United States of America.
On earth does it have? What is it? I really don't understand. How do he's dead? You were asserting that he had operational control of the cargo plot and the Abdul Muttalib plot. He's now dead. Can you show us, or the American people, or has a judge been shown?
Well, again, Jake, I'm not going to go any further than what I've said about the circumstances of his death and the case against them, which again you're linking, and I think that
you said that he was responsible for these things.
Yes, but again,
is there going to be any evidence presented?
You know, I don't have anything for you on that.
Do you not see at all? Does the administration not see at all how a president asserting that he has the right to kill an American citizen without due process, and that he's not going to even explain why he thinks he has that right, is troublesome to some people?
I wasn't aware of any of those things that you said actually happening, and again, I'm not going to address the circumstances of Awlaki's death. I think it's, again, it is an important fact that this terrorist who was actively plotting, had plotted in the past and is actively plotting to attack Americans and American interests, is dead. But I'm not going to, from any angle, discuss the circumstances of his death.
You know that the Center for Constitutional Rights and the ACLU tried to get permission to represent Alaki. His father had asked them to do that, but they needed to get permission from the Treasury Department, and so that they could challenge his being on this targeted killing list. And the administration, the Obama administration, refused to let them represent him. To not even, he couldn't even have the ACLU representing him.
Well, I would send those questions or take those questions to Treasury or Justice. I don't have anything on that for you.
What do you think constitutional law professor Barack Obama would make of this?
I think he spoke about it today.
The death.
Al-Awlaki had returned to his native Yemen, and President Obama put him on his so-called kill list. And 2 years later, he was indeed killed by a drone. But just 2 weeks after that, an American drone struck again in Yemen and killed another American citizen. This was Anwar's 16-year-old son, a minor and a non-combatant. He died while eating at an outdoor restaurant along with several other people, including children.
Do you think that the killing of Anwar al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, who is an American citizen, is justifiable? That's an American citizen that's being targeted without due process of law, without trial, and he's underage, he's a minor.
I would suggest that you should have a far more responsible father if they're truly concerned about the well-being of their children. I don't think becoming an al-Qaeda jihadist terrorist is the best way to go about doing your business.
What can't our government do? And what can they keep secret? Was he the actual target? Can you at least tell us? Is that too much to ask for? And shouldn't we know whether we're executing teenagers on purpose or by accident, let alone U.S. citizen teenagers? You know that initially the United States government said that he was in his 20s and was a militant. When pressed on it, and in fact the Washington Post found his birth certificate, well, there it is. They're like, oops, yeah, I guess he wasn't in his 20s. So that leads to a good question asked by the New Yorker, which is, was our government lying about the fact that he was in his 20s? Or was there evidence on him so thin and they wound up dropping a bomb on his head and killing him anyway?
NBC News has obtained this confidential 16-page Justice Department memo that concludes lethal strikes against U.S. citizens who are operational leaders of al-Qaeda are a lawful act of national self-defense.
We only take these kinds of actions when there's an imminent threat, when capture is not feasible, and when we are confident that we're doing so in a way that's consistent with federal and international law.
But the memo appears to allow greater leeway than the administration has publicly acknowledged. It says an imminent threat does not require the United States to have clear evidence that a specific attack on U.S. persons and interests will take place in the immediate future. The ACLU is challenging Obama's drone policy and is suing the U.S. government over al-Awlaki's death on behalf of his family.
It is a chilling document. It sets out the government's claimed authority to carry out the targeted killing of American citizens, but the limits are really vague and elastic, and it's very easy to see how they could be manipulated.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say a few words about the looming deadlines. So let me just repeat. Our economy right now is headed in the right direction, and it will stay that way as long as there aren't any more self-inflicted wounds coming out of Washington. So let's keep on chipping away at this problem together as Democrats and Republicans to give our workers and our businesses the support that they need to thrive in the weeks and months ahead. Thanks very much, and I know that you're going to have a whole bunch of other questions, and that's why I hired this guy, Jay Carney, to take those questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being here. I was hoping to skip the briefing today, but apparently I'm here to take your questions. Julie.
How can the government determine that an American citizen is an imminent threat to the U.S. or U.S. interests without having any kind of specific evidence that that person is planning an attack in the immediate future?
Well, the question, obviously, that you ask relates to some stories out today that, regarding a document prepared, an unclassified document prepared for some members of Congress. And understandable questions. And I can just say that, this president takes his responsibilities very seriously. And First and foremost, that's his responsibility to protect the United States and American citizens. He also takes his responsibility in conducting the war against al-Qaeda as authorized by Congress in a way that is fully consistent with our Constitution and all the applicable laws. We have acknowledged, the United States, that sometimes we use remotely piloted aircraft to conduct targeted strikes against specific al-Qaeda terrorists in order to prevent attacks on the United States and to save American lives. We conduct those strikes because they are necessary to mitigate ongoing actual threats, to stop plots, prevent future attacks, and again, save American lives. These strikes are legal, they are ethical, and they are wise.
Just to follow on drones, so is there a checklist then that will more narrowly define what imminent threat is? I mean, is there a checklist that will be followed?
I would point you to a speech by John Brennan where he talked about this issue. And again, I want to say from the outset, these are important questions, and the President takes them very seriously.
I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
How does dropping a bomb on an American citizen without any judicial review, any trial, not raise the very human rights questions or more human rights questions than something like waterboarding?
John, again, as I said, the questions around this issue are important, and the President takes them seriously.
You think I'm joking?
He takes his responsibility as Commander-in-Chief to protect the United States and its citizens very seriously. He takes the absolute necessity to conduct our war against al-Qaeda and its affiliates in a way that's consistent with the Constitution and our laws very seriously.
Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
Senators, 11 of them, wrote a letter to the President asking him to release all of the Justice Department memos relating to the subject of killing suspected al-Qaeda leader who might be a U.S. citizen as well. Will President Obama release those memos?
I just have nothing for you on alleged memos regarding potentially classified matters.
You can't tell us whether he will release those memos.
Again, I just don't have anything for you on that.
Can you address the broader question of transparency? The President has obviously talked a lot about the importance of transparency, and here you have a document being leaked, senators calling for more information. Is this transparency?
Well, what I would say is that, as I've been saying, with regards to this matter and the issues around it, the President has made clear, as reflected in the statements by and speeches by senior administration officials, that we need to inform the public and explain to the public and to you, the process that we're undertaking and the reasoning behind it, and the white paper that was provided to some members of Congress. It is unclassified. It's been released. Is
Shut up! You said that U.S. citizenship alone does not make a leader of an enemy force immune from being targeted. Talk about U.S. citizenship plus residency. Why does the U.S. believe it's legal to kill Americans abroad, but not to kill Americans at home without judicial process?
Again, I would point you to the ample material here, both in spoken presentations by senior administration officials as well as the much discussed white paper. I'm not a lawyer, and these are the kinds of things that are probably best expressed and explained by lawyers. My understanding, for what it's worth, thank you for your interruption, but there are issues here about, again, that have been discussed and are out there about.
So instead of due process, we have a secret execution based on secret evidence and a secret legal reasoning. No public record, no appeal to these people in the government. The Constitution be damned. This is the first time in recorded American history since the Civil War that the President has used the military to kill Americans without due process. And it might not be the last. Who will the President kill next?
I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?